So there's this idea that I like to flip back and forth on, and so I'll talk to both sides of it a little bit today. And it has to do with, I would say, it has to do with how we appreciate things, and at the same time, what it's like to go for something that you want. Um, and I'm remembering this movie from years ago, this movie 10 with Dudley Moore, and the whole movie he's in love with this woman, Bo Derek, and it's not the greatest movie. You don't have to go watch it, but in any case, he's obsessed with this woman, and the movie it's a comedy. It goes through all these twists and turns, and then finally, at the end, it turns out that they're going to get together, and there's this moment where they're finally going to go to bed together, and I can't remember if it's him or her, but one of them is obsessed that they have to play this particular song. They have to play the music Bolero, and they start this ritual and they play the music, and something happens and interrupts it, and so they have to put the record back to the beginning, and basically because they're trying to get the circumstance just so, they're not really enjoying, like, he's been building up to this moment for this whole time of the movie, and then finally gets there, and because things aren't just so, he ends up not enjoying it, and she's not enjoying it. So from the outside, it's a funny thing to laugh at, but I think there's a lot of truth in that, and I want to say I'm not beyond this, so I'm not trying to come from a preachy place, but it's something that I really observe in my life sometimes. Maybe you're dreaming, I'm going to go to this restaurant, and like, oh, I can't wait to go to this restaurant, and then you sit there, and maybe you don't like the people at the table next to you, and so suddenly this idea that you had, this expectation is sort of shattered, and for whatever reason you can't enjoy that in a way that you want it. And this comes back to this idea of having certain expectations, and when we have expectations, it's fine to have expectations, but if you have them, it can lead to disappointment when they're not met. And this topic I call the perfect conditions, that people very often are going for something, but they're, without even realizing it, they're making all these requirements about certain perfect conditions. I would fall prey to this a lot, and I see other people fall into this trap all the time when I would go to a meditation retreat. People would think like, oh, it's going to be this perfect case, and everyone's going to be quiet, and but then maybe the person next to you fidgets a lot, and so they're disturbing your perfect conditions, your perfect meditation, or maybe you were hoping for good weather and it rains. And so this idea of shooting for perfect conditions, and what ends up happening, the desire for perfect conditions suddenly trumps the thing that you were hoping to enjoy. It's like, now I can't enjoy this meal. These people are rude next to me, so it spoiled the whole meal. And again, it's okay to sort of set up these standards that we want to go for, but at the same time, there's something to be said for what can I enjoy with whatever's going on. What can I decide I'm going to enjoy regardless? Over the years, I've gotten really good at enjoying my cup of coffee. Like, I just love it, and I've learned to love it in good conditions and in bad conditions. And I think it's really good to strengthen that muscle of, how can I enjoy this right after I got knocked off center? I think what happens is when our perfect conditions aren't met, it's at least a small way of being knocked off center or being perturbed. And so it's like, oh, this was the restaurant I wanted to go to, and it's not open today. Now my day is ruined. And that's the moment that is the opportunity to say, okay, what can I enjoy here? Now, I'm not saying give up on goals, or certainly, I'm a big proponent of going for things that we want to go for. But in the moment, when something doesn't work out, or you have a flat tire, oh, can you enjoy it? Is there something? How can I enjoy this thing that's happening? A couple of weeks ago, I was sitting here in my apartment, and I started hearing noise outside, and I realized, oh, they're working on the street. And then I went to the faucet, and I realized that the whole block had no water. And so I could have let that upset my day, but instead I just realized, what, it's happening. I can wrestle with this as much as I want, but it's not really going to change anything. And the other topic that I sort of categorize this under is that idea of necessary suffering versus unnecessary suffering. And the necessary suffering that day was, hey, the water was out. There was nothing I could do about that. Unnecessary suffering would have been me getting more and more distraught about that when there was nothing I could do about it. And it's like, oh, they said it's going to be fixed by 4, and it's 8 o'clock. It's still not fixed. So that's unnecessary suffering that sort of adds insult to injury, to use that phrase. So I think sometimes it's nice to really scale back and see what can you enjoy in the simplest of circumstances. And then even, forget enjoying, like when things are unpleasant, how much can I just be with it and not react to it, right? How much can I just be with, okay, this is happening. It's unpleasant. It's cold. Something's not according to plan. Okay, so let me just be in that experience, and this will pass also. So yeah, that's that topic of the day. Not worrying so much about perfect conditions, and just sort of flowing a bit. I'm thinking of one of my friends. He's so good at whatever's happening. He just flows with it. He's like, oh, okay, this plane is late. I'm going to take the next one. Not a big deal. Just move on, and like, oh, okay, I'll pick up a book and read a book instead. So yeah, that's it for today.